What's up, everybody? It's the Power Rankings Podcast, aka the Power Rankings Show. I'm your host, Elliot Harrison, and I'm fiddle farting, as they say, with my headset as we speak. I know you guys do that at home when you're editing thousands of backup left tackle plays like Marcus does. I'm sure Marcus Mosher, that's at Marcus_Mosher. I'm sure he's got, I'm going to guess 785 Byron Bell plays. Gift. Is it gift or gift, Marcus?
I call him gift plays. Yeah.
Okay. Very good. And we're joined by the Brinks crew. Courtney's running around somewhere. Herbert's here. Eric's here. You know what, though? I forgot something, Marcus. It's very important. Enjoy the view.
Yeah, this is absolutely great radio. I should at least tell our listeners what we're doing today. Why Elliot?
I don't think so.
You don't think so? Just let him hang in?
Yeah. Well, I was going to kind of tease it. I had to put the Lucky Watch on. Good friend sent me this watch. It's very important to me. So, we do have a few things, but I'm a little bit more concerned. Do most of your followers? Well, of course, your followers know this. Okay, if you don't know this about Marcus. One of the things that he does that he calls work is he takes plays from Game Pass and he makes them into GIFs and he files them somewhere. And then when something happens, like somebody gets traded or moved, Marcus is just voila there. He goes, here's 16 plays from Byron Bell that you've never seen. And it's like one long stream of conscious tweet, right? And anyway,
the most recent example is like DJ Moore got a contract extension. So I put a whole bunch of my favorite DJ Moore plays over the last couple of years, and Panthers Twitter ate it up. So it's a good way to increase your exposure, to get your interactions up. There you go. All your content creators. Your favorite DJ Moore plays.
Who has a list of favorite DJ Moore plays?
I also made a video of all of his receptions over 20 yards from the 2021 season. That one's very depressing because of your guy, Sam Darnold, at quarterback. But
so wait a minute. So did you do this? Did you do this after DJ Moore got after this happened, or did you do this?
No. I do these. Most of the time I do these over the summer. So when things like this happen, I'm ready to go. So I'll just post it on a random June morning. Like, here's every 20-yard reception by Alan Lazard. And that way, when he has a big game, I can say, listen, we saw this coming in the offseason.
Oh, my God. The level of commitment is
part of the brand.
That's crazy. Hey, man, here's every Corey Clement run over 3 yards.
I mean, listen, I did a video on every broken tackle that Ezekiel Elliott made this year, and the video was like 3 seconds long. So it wasn't.
I was going to say, yeah, no kidding. It's amazing.
My favorite one is, I'll just give you the last one. My favorite one is I did a video of every reception by Jason Witten over 15 yards in his last season in Dallas, and it was just a blank screen for 2 minutes.
Oh my gosh. His last year in Dallas,
bad.
Jason Witten really, he had such a good 2016 season.
Yep.
And he have huge numbers. I don't remember what the numbers were. He probably had like 600 and something yards. But he was really effective, really played well. And it's like, what a great way to end your career. And then he came back, and after 14 years, he was a Hall of Famer anyway, Oh, well, whatever. Seeing him in the Raiders was really weird. So speaking of changing teams, we are going to be talking about changing teams, except in a different light. Marcus has ranked his top 10 quarterback moves this year. And it's not because we wanted to do a top 10 list. It's because we had 10 quarterback moves, including a Raiders quarterback who changed locations. Is he on this list?
He is on this list. Yep.
Okay, cool. We'll talk about him in a second. I always, whenever I talk to Marcus, I go, okay, download me. What did I miss? The latest stuff. And so we had a brief convo that Zadarius Smith signed with the Vikings. I really like that move for them. Marcus, they've kind of gone in and out with Everson Griffin, obviously, over the last few years. And Danielle Hunter has not always been healthy. I think this is a really good move for them.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is going to be the injuries for both Hunter and Darius Smith. They played a combined like 400 snaps last year. Danielle Hunter's only played 7 games over the last 2 seasons, but if they're healthy and on the field together, it's one of the better pass rush duos in the league, I think.
Yeah, I'm curious to see if his hand's going to be in the dirt. For some players, that makes no difference at all. For other players, it does. Now, he's been a stand-up, basically like a 3-4 edge player. The Vikings have traditionally played a 4-3, but, that's a new coaching staff this year. I know these are, minor things, but not every player can just do both. Most can. I don't see it being a huge issue, but just an interesting thought. You had one more. Oh, yeah. We had Leonard Fournette. We were debating Leonard Fournette's career a little while ago, where it's going to end up. Leonard Fournette signed for $8 million a year, approx, right?
Yeah, I think it's the max. I think it's 3 years, $21 million, all guaranteed.
Good deal for both teams.
Yeah.
I mean, for both entities, right? I mean, for Leonard Fournette, he gets a pretty good, handsome amount for what a running back's getting these days, and for Tampa, and a chance to win a Super Bowl again, which is a lifetime thing. And Tampa Bay really needs him.
What I'm surprised about is that he didn't get more, because James Conner just signed the exact same deal with the Cardinals a couple of weeks ago. And there's no doubt that Fournette's a better player, right? He's a more dynamic receiver. I think he runs with more power. Plus, he stayed healthier than Conner. So I'm actually surprised that Fournette didn't get a little bit more.
Well, Conner, I thought, signed for $7 a year, and Edmonds got $6 a year.
Right.
Am I crazy there?
Yeah, right. But Fournette got 3 years, $21 million with a max of $24 million. So you're talking,
okay.
But you're still talking in the same range, right? I just think Fournette's a far better player at this stage in his career.
Okay. But I can't get comfortable in my chair. I put a cushion on it, a little whoopee cushion. Leonard Fournette probably does deserve more money than James Conner. I'd like to look at their workload comp. Fournette came in 17. Wasn't that also Connor's first year as well?
Yep.
It's kind of like, did Fournette get underpaid, or did James Conner get overpaid?
I think Conner got overpaid.
That's kind of where I would lean also. Yeah, maybe Fournette's agent would have demanded $9 million plus if he went to another team. Perhaps there is a little bit of a discount involved of, hey, I got a chance here to win too with the greatest quarterback of all time. I'm taking it. Not to mention happiness. Not every person is motivated by how much money can they squeeze out. It's like, hey, what's the difference between me getting $7.5 million and $9 million if I'm a lot happier in another locale?
And top of that, living in Florida, where I don't believe there's a state tax. I mean, that helps, especially if you're going to go somewhere else where there is a high, income tax. So it does make a lot of sense for him just to go back to Tampa Bay, to an offense that he knows and a quarterback he likes.
I mean, in California, we have a 10% state tax. If you're making $8 million a year, that's $800,000. So there's a difference right there. As much money as I'm making on this podcast, I mean, it really just doesn't, really affect me. But I'm getting taxed infinity or zero. So there you go. You know what? We're probably going to inundate people with sponsors pretty soon. Our whole show is just going to be like, I'll say, so Marcus, what do you think of the Titans this year? And you'll be like, Elliot, I think they're a 10-7 team. I still hate the 17-game schedule. And I think Derrick Henry runs for 1,500 yards. And they've got to protect Ryan Tannehill better.
I think everybody knows where we're going with this one. But, shout out to Trojan.
I wasn't going to say Trojan. I was going to say like home security.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. And then everything's just going to be a 30-second snippet of football analysis followed by 3 minutes of promo reads. So enjoy, everyone. It'll be great.
I have so many bad things to say right now about Derrick Henry and Trojan, but I can't do it. So
it's coming. Oh, cookies. All right. So did you tell me another little minor move that we missed?
That's the big ones. We're good. We've had a lot of college pro days today, and I know people are getting really excited about Malik Willis, the quarterback from Liberty, but
you're excited about him. Kind of.
I just hate pro days. We don't learn anything from a quarterback throwing, against air, basically. It's whatever.
I can't believe I'm hearing you say this.
I love the draft process. It's just, this is the stupid part. Like, we can't judge a quarterback by a 70-yard bomb that he throws to nobody in T-shirts and shorts. It doesn't make sense.
But in T-shirts and shorts, we can judge defensive linemen by how
fast
they go from one cone to
it's at least their athleticism. I don't care about the other stuff.
Is it throwing a football athleticism?
Yeah, I mean, dude.
You draft nicks are.
We all have an uncle that can throw the ball 50 yards. It's not that impressive.
Yeah. All right. Well, there we go. Apparently, Marcus's uncle is Doug Williams.
Or Uncle Rico from the Point Dynamite.
Can Scott Mosher sling it like Dan Fouts?
He used to. I think he's got a bad shoulder now, but yeah, he used to be like all-time great all-time quarterback in our backyards. So.
Marcus has a huge family. So, all right. So let's get to some of these moves. So you went 10 down to 1. Now I'm looking at your number 10 right now. And before we go to that, and by the way, I'm talking about Brinks TV. We have a rundown with the helmets. Obviously you're listening. You're not seeing this, but you're missing a Seattle Seahawks helmet. I think you know exactly what it looks like. Is this going to be based on who the quarterback is? Because number 10 is obviously a kind of smaller time quarterback, or is it also to do with the money, the fit? What were you thinking?
Yeah, it's everything. What you gave up to acquire the quarterback, all that's factored in. Let's just start with Seattle at 10.
Okay.
They lost Russell Wilson. They bring in Drew Lock. It seems like, at least going into the draft, that the Seahawks are going to roll with Drew Lock as their starting quarterback. I don't see that at all. Everything we've seen from Drew Lock in his career suggests that he is a backup quarterback at best. I don't know why Seattle, if they were going to trade Russell Wilson, why they weren't more active in going out and getting a replacement, whether that's a Marcus Mariota or a Mitchell Trubisky. I think both of those guys would have been far superior options to Drew Lock.
Interesting thoughts here, or of course, I'm going to think my own thoughts are interesting. Apologies, but it seems like Seattle has kind of started over, right? But they paid some curious contracts for a team that's starting over. Now, sometimes when you see a defensive tackle or somebody signed for $6 million or whatever, you're like, hey, what are they doing? I thought they were starting over. You still have to have bodies, and you still have to have some good players around, or else the young guys you're developing aren't learning anything.
And they won't develop. That's right. If the talent around your star players is so bad, those guys are going to end up becoming a little stagnant. Right. So you want to let the talent level to at least be competent.
Yes. So I don't want to be too harsh on this team. That might be what they're thinking. In terms of Drew Lock, this is not like the Matt Flynn signing, because Matt Flynn was a little bit of a commodity because he had played well in Aaron Rodgers' stead. He had played against the Patriots on like a Sunday night game where he played pretty well for Green Bay. And then he had this huge game against the Detroit Lions on the last day of the 2011 season where he threw for like 490 or something ridiculous. Maybe Stafford threw 490, but they both threw for a ridiculous amount of yards. So they signed him to be the starter. And then they drafted Russell Wilson in the 3rd round, and the rest is history. This is a little different than that. Do you see them spending a 1st-round pick on a quarterback?
I mean, I kind of think they have to, right? There's just no way that you can go into the season with Drew Lock as your starting quarterback, because it's going to hurt the development of the receivers. It's going to hurt your offense, which wants to be run first. I think there's a couple of the quarterbacks in this class that are upgrades over Drew Lock. They might not be franchise guys, but they're at least worth a shot. I can't fathom the Seahawks starting Drew Lock this year.
Well, we'll get off Drew Lock here in a second. I remember watching that game. I think Kirk Herbstreit was the color analyst for the Broncos Chiefs game, and he was kind of defending
that game. Yep.
Yeah, and Lock played well, showed a lot of mobility, and a little bit of moxie, man. He was tough, and maybe it's kind of similar situation. The last time out, you see a guy, you think, hey, you know what? Maybe he was not utilized properly with the Broncos. Either way, I don't hate this move as much as you do, but that's okay. I understand why you have it number 10. Yep. Let's go to number 9. We got the Washington football team.
The Commanders. We got it. We'll eventually get used to say Commanders, but it's Carson Wentz. Yeah. I think what makes this move seem even worse in hindsight is what some of the other quarterbacks went for and all the other quarterbacks that were available between Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson, Matt Ryan, to give up 2 third-round picks and potentially a second-round pick in 2023, plus take on his full salary. I don't get it, because I thought Carson Wentz looked broken at the end of the year. I mean, every snap that Carson Wentz was taking and not handing the ball off to Jonathan Taylor was a win for the defense. And this is somebody who's now been traded twice in the last 2 years, been on 3 different teams. I don't understand this one.
I think you could have put this number 10.
Yeah.
Frankly. Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, there's a chance that he regains his 2017 form, but we're getting farther and farther away from 2017. Newsflash, right? What a brilliant thing for me to say, but it's the fact. I mean,
it's starting to look like that 2017 season was just an outlier, and everything else has been just who Carson Wentz is, right? That seems way more plausible than, hey, we can get him back to being that quarterback that he was so many years ago. It might just be an outlier season for him.
I think the interesting thing too is if you look at that 2017 season with Carson Wentz that everybody kind of always points to, it wasn't as incredible as you think. It was more of a feel like MVP season. Mm-hmm. But his passer rating was really good. It was 101.9, but it's not like the guy. Let's put it this way: he threw for 3,200 yards, 33 touchdowns, and 101 passer rating. That's really good. There's no question about it. If you compare that to like Matt Ryan's 2016 numbers, it's nowhere close. Correct. So and also Carson Wentz statistics from last year are excellent. They are excellent. I know, but we all know what happened.
Yeah, I mean, but if you watch these games, they were winning in spite of him. I mean, there was a couple games they won where he was just downright awful.
He is exhibit A of why you cannot compare quarterback numbers to even 2006 quarterback numbers or 2009 quarterback numbers anymore. I could name another quarterback or two, but I won't on that level. Let's go to number. I didn't say anybody. I'm just saying I could name somebody else. Let's go to number 8.
It's Tyrod Taylor to the New York Giants. I think the money maybe shocked people a little bit. I think he's getting like $8 or $9 million a year. And typically that means that this quarterback is going to come in and compete for a job. I don't think that's the case. I just think with Daniel Jones's injury history, they needed to get a high-level backup, and that's what Taylor is. Now, he's 33 years old, but he knows Brian Daboll's scheme really well, and he's going to be somebody that can help Daniel Jones learn. I don't think he's really going to be a threat. I think this is a good fit for Tyrod.
This is an interesting one. It's hard to judge this guy's career, isn't it? Yeah. It's just been so, in Buffalo, he was at times pretty good, at times very middling. And by middling, I don't mean bad. He was just kind of a middle of the pack quarterback. That could, as long
to 20th best quarterback in the league, right?
Yeah. As long as your kicker made his kicks and your defense, held the fort somewhat. They didn't have to play dominating. It's been a little bit, like that for him. But I think the fit is a good point here. And what were the contract details again on this?
I think it was like 2 years, 18-ish million a year.
Yeah. So that the numbers there make me understand though why you have another guy higher. We're going to get a few spots ahead of ourselves here though. Let's go to number 7.
It's Miami Dolphins with Teddy Bridgewater. I love the fit because I think Bridgewater can give you very passable quarterback play if you need it. And if Tua just really struggles and can't pick up the Mike McDaniel offense, Bridgewater can come in there and be okay and run that, version of the Kyle Shanahan offense in Miami. I really like it a lot. I think Bridgewater is a kind of in that same tier as Tyrod, maybe a little bit better, a little bit more accurate of a passer, but in a run first scheme with potentially a good defense, you could do well there.
Yeah, well, I mean, they signed Raheem Mostert. They signed Chase Edmonds. We mentioned his contract a little earlier. They still have Myles Gaskin from last year. I don't know how that's going to work out, but they're going to run the football. They re-upped Gesicki, right? Mm-hmm. The tight end. You think Jalen Waddle's a star at this point. And it's just a case of the defense. How can this defense at least be, if this defense can be 14th in the league, then I think they can make some hay. If not, I think they're going to be on the outside looking in again with the postseason. As much as I like the coaching hire, it's weird. I didn't like the coaching fire, but I liked the coaching hire.
I 100% agree with you. I think this is the type of coach they needed in Miami. And I think Bridgewater gives at least Mike McDaniel a very solid quarterback. And I don't know if he has that in Tua. We'll find out.
And Teddy Bridgewater went 5-0 or 6-0 a couple years back with the Saints when Drew Brees got hurt. That's our next team, the New Orleans Saints. So talk about their move.
Yeah, they brought Jameis Winston back on a 2-year deal. I believe it was about $28 million. So he got paid more than all the guys that we just got done talking about. This is year.
How do you feel about that?
It's fine. It's a little rich, but it's fine. Year 3 for Jameis in New Orleans. I thought he looked okay last year when he was given the chance to start. We know the Saints were looking at other options, right? They missed out on Deshaun Watson. I think they would have been interested in a Russell Wilson trade. So to bounce back with Jameis on a not awful contract, it's fine.
Well, and they still have to see what they have in Ian Book, and maybe they draft somebody as well. Be interesting to see what they do in the draft. The next team up is kind of who I was referring to with the Tyrod contract. Much cheaper deal for a player probably of similar ilk. I don't know if that's fair to Tyrod to say this because I don't know that we've seen this player enough yet. Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, it's Mitchell Trubisky. I thought Trubisky was the one quarterback in free agency that I would have taken a shot at. And I thought the Steelers got him at a good deal at $7 million a year. Is he going to be the franchise quarterback there? Probably not. But he's young. He's athletic. I think he fits Matt Canada, the offensive coordinator there. I think he fits the scheme well. And I think a year off probably did him a lot of favors.
Yeah, I think the key here is, and honestly, we haven't seen Tyrod enough either because Tyrod got hurt with Houston last year. He had that weird thing where he got a shot with the Chargers, right? And it punctured his lung, or that was a really weird thing. Unfortunate. He's had some bad luck. Trubisky, some people say he's had bad luck because he had to work with Matt Nagy. I do not subscribe to that. But I do think that this is a good fit for something that you mentioned in our past podcast, which is Pittsburgh just can't go through 2022 with their offensive line playing the way it did last year. They just can't, not if they're going to compete at all, not with the competition in their division. Obviously, with Cleveland getting better, Cincinnati's really good. Baltimore is going to be better, I think. The money, though, is really the key with this, right?
That's why it's such a value, right? And why they're ranked so high.
You can do this at quarterback without hamstringing your cap. That's not an easy thing to do. Let's go to number 4. Now, this team had a quarterback who was hamstringing their cap. Yeah. Great player, but they had to do something about it.
Yeah. So the Falcons signed Marcus Mariota after trading Matt Ryan, which I agree with. The Falcons were going nowhere with Matt Ryan. He was an aging quarterback, and now it at least opens up the chance that you can rebuild and maybe draft a quarterback this year. And if not this year, next year. So I think Mariota is exactly what you want in a bridge quarterback. He's pretty safe with the football. He doesn't turn it over. He can run the ball a little bit, and he can get the ball to your playmakers. Is he going to be the reason why you win games? No. Is he going to be the reason why you lose games? Probably not. And considering the contract that he got, which was very, very reasonable, I like this signing by the Falcons.
What was it per year?
Oh, I don't think it was $7 or $8 million a year, something pretty cheap like that.
This move to me is a really smart move because why not roll the dice on a guy who really wasn't that bad? I think people think of him as kind of a bust, and I understand it when you go second overall in the draft, but there were times that he played some really good football. He's still athletic enough that the Raiders were using him in special packages, Marcus. So I like this move. I think it's unfortunate. You know how I feel about the league, where we have a league where a guy like Matt Ryan can't finish his career with the Falcons.
Well, and it's perfect too, from the sense that he goes back with Arthur Smith, who was his offensive coordinator in Tennessee. There's a lot of familiarity there. There's not a lot of weapons in Atlanta right now, Elliot. It's Kyle Pitts, and that's just about it. But that's actually okay for Mariota. I think he's a guy that's better off just kind of spreading the ball around to the open guy. If it's not open, run. I think it's fine. I think it's a good signing by the Falcons.
You know what the bummer is, though, for Marcus Mariota and his family? This is a clear downturn in gear. When you're with the Raiders, you can give your family, like Raiders jackets and hats.
I see. I disagree. The all black Falcons jerseys are nice. I love those. The Jerry Glanville Falcons, those are my favorite.
Well, they don't look like that.
See, they wear them every once in a while. Every once in a while, they wear them.
Yeah, but they've hammed them up too much. Well, first of all, the greatest Falcons look is the red on gray. But I will give you this.
Bad take.
That is not a bad take. Do you know how many people that watched football back then agree with me that the Falcons had an amazing look? But we don't hate the Jerry Glanville Falcons either. We thought that was a good look, but they didn't overdo it with all the colors and stuff. Just make it black, okay? You don't need like
black and white. That's all you need is black and white.
Yeah, you don't need all the extra stuff. That's all I'm saying. Okay, I'm glad we got this out. This was very important. So where'd Matt Ryan go to? Marcus's number 3 destination, Indianapolis Colts.
And I debated putting this one at number 2 because I love this fit, right? After last year, it seems like the Colts soured on Carson Wentz pretty quickly. He didn't mesh from a leadership standpoint. I don't think he necessarily fit that offense either. Matt Ryan does. I mean, he's a great leader. He's somebody that can play in the play action RPO style offense. He can throw the ball down the field. You keep him in a dome, keep him in playing in nice weather in that AFC South. And I think he makes the Colts, a legit playoff contender. And if they can keep him healthy and keep him upright, I wouldn't be shocked if Matt Ryan, takes this team to like the AFC Championship game when nobody's really expecting that.
His contract, talk about it.
It's cheap. It's cheap for the Colts. I think they're only paying him like 2 years, $28 million total. I think they might rework it a little bit, but it's a pretty cheap contract.
So what did Atlanta have to do?
Atlanta ate $40 million in dead cap.
Yeah. So I thought that Ryan was going to cost Atlanta like something like $60 million. Obviously, the Colts took over some of they're paying his part of the salary, but they're eating all that.
Bonus, yep.
Yes, but that was the real deal here. That's what I was basically setting up. Is it's unfortunate that this is what happens, but these contracts become an albatross for a team trying to rebuild, and so it's not that Matt Ryan can't play anymore. I told you last year, I go, would there have really been any difference if the Rams went and got Matt Ryan? You didn't totally agree with me on that one, but I still agree with me. I think they could have won the Super Bowl with Matt Ryan,
sure.
Or at least gotten to it.
It's a great fit for a team like the Colts that didn't have a first-round pick, that wasn't going to be in the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes or Russell Wilson. Like, this is the absolute best-case scenario for them, right?
Yeah, I do disagree with you a little bit in that you're like, well, now they're kind of a playoff contender. I think this kind of makes them more of a Super Bowl contender. You're going to tell me that if you took Matt Ryan and put him on the Colts last year, that they couldn't have beat the Bengals in the AFC playoffs?
Yeah. I still have some questions about their offensive line. They let Eric Fisher hit free agency, Mark Lugowski, the right guard, left for the Giants. So they've got to fill a few holes before I'm ready to call them a Super Bowl contender, but this is a better team than they were last year.
Isn't Kowinski on the left side? I thought he was on the left side. Quentin Nelson was on the right. Did I screw that up?
Yeah, I think Nelson plays on the left side mostly.
So I think the Eric Fisher potential loss is not good for this team. You got a veteran quarterback here. You need to protect him. At this stage of his career, Matt Ryan is not he was never really that mobile of a player. No. He had good pocket movement, right? Like similar to Drew Brees, being able to step up, move to the side, so on and so forth. But
I got a question for you.
You are right. I was wrong. Quentin, I don't know why I screwed that up. Quentin Nelson is on the left. Yikes.
Would you like to see Julio in Indianapolis now that he's a free agent back with Matt Ryan?
I think it's fun, but I think, I guess an opinion I had last year that maybe wasn't the most loved opinion is I was like, guys, why are we excited about Julio Jones signing in Tennessee? Julio Jones is going to be a 12-year vet, Marcus, who's had a lot of soft tissue injuries and things. I don't know that he has the same burst that he did. I mean, yes, I think he could be a nice piece to have, but would I get excited about it in fantasy and spend anywhere in the top 5 rounds on a guy like that, even if he's with Matt Ryan? No. And I think Julio Jones has had a Hall of Fame career. I do.
Would you rather just see them bring back T.Y. Hilton?
I think T.Y. has been a really underrated player. Now, granted, he's had some issues being on the field as well. Why are you smirking?
Oh, then I'm curious about your opinion. That's all.
Yeah. Okay. So T.Y. to me has been really good for that team, but I don't know at this point. I mean, I believe this is going to be year 10 for T.Y. I think he came out in 13.
2012. I think it was that same class 12. As Andrew Luck.
Oh, okay. So that would be year 11. I think this is a spot they need to draft a wide receiver. They need to draft offensive line. Speaking of, we're going to have Chad Ryder on Thursday. He's going to talk a little bit about these quarterback moves, but what these teams can do to help these quarterbacks. And with the Colts, I'm sure that's going to come up. Offensive line, as you mentioned, wide receiver, and so on. Let's go to number 2, because this is a quarterback that's got just as much name value, although he hasn't had near the career Matt Ryan has had. But it comes with a lot of other stuff too. The Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, let's talk first just about the fit on the field. And we can talk about the off the field stuff after this. But on the field, the Browns are getting one of the top 5 or 6 quarterbacks in the league. And Deshaun Watson is a perfect fit in Kevin Stefanski's offense. The last time we saw him, I mean, he led the NFL in passer rating in 2020 with an awful Houston team. And he's a really dynamic player. You put him now behind one of the best offensive lines in the league with Cleveland, with an awesome rushing attack in Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. You've given receivers and Amari Cooper and Donovan Peoples-Jones and David Njoku. There's no reason why he can't put up MVP type of numbers in Cleveland. And we'll see about the suspension. But in terms of on the field stuff, this is one of the best quarterbacks in the entire conference.
Yeah. I mean, get excited. I just kind of know how I feel about this one. Yes, for Cleveland, it makes sense on the football field. It's an odd flex to me to see fans automatically defending this player, because they want this signing to work out, or because they like him, or because they are Browns fans. That's a weird one to me. I get a lot of people's argument that this is somebody who was not found criminally guilty. I get it. But he wasn't tried in a court of law. In other words, they didn't, it didn't go that far. So, I don't know. How do you feel about that? It's such a tough thing, because you recognize that this person wasn't found criminally liable. On the other hand, as I asked you before, if the Cowboys had signed Deshaun Watson, when I asked you this, you told me, yes, I think that's an upgrade to Dak Prescott. But I asked you, would you like it for your favorite team?
No, I wouldn't. There's really no reason to do that. But yeah, you mentioned it's really tricky, because he wasn't found guilty in the eyes of the law. And according to the grand jury, there wasn't even enough evidence to go to trial. However, right. It's still really hard to justify this move. There's other moves that Browns could have made at quarterback that would have caused so much controversy that you don't have to necessarily feel bad about rooting for this guy, but they believe Watson is their best chance to win a Super Bowl. And that's why they're okay giving up all those picks and all that guaranteed money, because they believe he's the best option out there. And I kind of don't disagree. Like, if there's any quarterback that was available that gives them the best chance to win a Super Bowl, it's probably Watson, but it comes at a cost.
Let me clarify something, because Marcus and I really haven't talked about this move because we didn't do a podcast on Friday. Marcus didn't want to work, and then he had a cocktail party. So you guys hit him up at Marcus_Mosher about that. So we didn't get a chance to talk about this. It happened right after, I think, our last podcast. I would just say that I think, and I don't want to speak for you here, but we were both pretty conflicted about it, because I think we both appreciate if you're not found guilty. And let me make this clear. He wasn't found not guilty either. It never got that far.
Right.
You want to respect that. You do, but you can't. It's also hard to look past how many allegations. We're not talking about one person, he said, she said situation. So it becomes difficult because I think, I respect the due process. I do. I'm not rooting against him. I just find it odd to all of a sudden be rah, rah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like waving the pom-poms. I'm stuck in this middle area of respecting the process, but also really wondering what the truth is here. And also, we didn't even mention about a suspension looming.
Yeah. And I've got to believe that
suspension looming.
I got to believe the Browns know about what the suspension is going to be. Is it 6 or 8 games? Is it the entire season? My guess is that they wouldn't have traded for Watson if it was an entire season suspension, right? You just don't do that. But suspension's certainly coming. They signed Jacoby Brissett, who can give them somewhat competent quarterback play in the meantime. But I think with Watson, the Browns are legitimate Super Bowl contenders. I do.
With the money they paid, do you want to talk a little bit about how this thing was structured? Because I know when you called me and talked about it, it's different. It's different. So, we'll just call it that. That's putting it nicely.
Yeah. So when players get suspended, the money that they get suspended gets taken out of the base salary, and it's a percentage in most cases, right? And it's taken from your game check. So if you have a base salary of 10 million and you get suspended 8 games, you're going to lose half of your base salary, 5 million. Right. Well, in the case of Deshaun Watson in 2022, they structured the contract with the base salary is only $1 million, and he got a whole bunch in signing bonus, which means if he is suspended for 6 or 8 games, he's only going to lose a fraction of the money that was due to him this year. It's kind of a shady thing to do, but I understand why they did it.
Yeah, and there's been some consternation about where this would lead in terms of future quarterback deals. I think the Browns have a valid reason here somewhat for doing this. It's an extenuating circumstance. I'm trying to be as respectful as I can. I think the tone of my voice kind of gives away
people know
a
how
lot of what I think. But I will, like I said, I just to reiterate, hey, with due process, we don't know what else is going to come out. There's probably going to be civil cases. I hope that this isn't as bad as it seems. And look, I want the Browns to win. Can I just talk about another quarterback move though, while we're on the Browns?
Sure.
So, I like Case Keenum. I think Case Keenum is a really good backup quarterback. I know that sounds odd. It's like a misnomer. Wait, he's a really good backup. Mm-hmm. But yes, if I'm an NFL team, there's 5 or 6 guys in the league. Colt McCoy is another one that I would love to have as a backup. Teddy Bridgewater, I know, is kind of in the line of starter backup. We'll see what happens with Tua, but that's another quarterback
for example, Keenum last year, the game where Baker got hurt or couldn't play on Thursday night. They played the Broncos, mm-hmm. right? And Keenum was excellent in that game. Like he didn't turn the ball over. He kept them, on schedule on offense, and they won a very important game. That's exactly what you want.
That's right. And the stats aren't always there because the key is, hey, look at third down efficiency. Look at what they're doing when he's got to make plays. Does he use his legs? Maybe he only runs for 14 yards in a game, but did that 7-yard run come to get them in field goal range when they really needed to get their kicker closer? Those are the kinds of things that's hard to tell from a box score.
Correct.
Those are the kinds of things that I think Case Keenum does really well. Buffalo got him in a trade. I like the move for the Bills also.
Of course.
Get you somebody that in case, Josh Allen plays a really physical game. We know that. Josh Allen turns an ankle and there's 2 games left in the year. You need to at least split. I think Case Keenum can at least win one of those games for you. That's the point. We saw Colt McCoy win 2 out of 3 when they needed to have it last year as an example as well. Okay, but let's go to your number 1 move. This was the major quarterback move of the offseason. I think this one's pretty obvious, but go ahead, cue it up.
Yeah, it's the Denver Broncos and Russell Wilson. They had to get a franchise quarterback playing in a division with Mahomes, Justin Herbert, and Derek Carr. your guy, Derek Carr. You had to get somebody that could go toe-to-toe with those guys. And Russell Wilson can absolutely do that. And I think in the Nathaniel Hackett's offense, with all of their weapons, with their defense, it just makes so much sense. He's an adult. He's a leader. I thought the price that they gave up for him was very, very reasonable. It's my favorite quarterback destination and landing spot so far.
You say he's an adult?
He's an adult. Sometimes you don't have an adults in the quarterback room.
That was a that phrase never came up ever until the Baker Mayfield story. I never, like, watching football in 1993, I never heard anyone say, what this team needs is an adult at quarterback.
I mean, sometimes you need that though, right?
No,
sometimes you just
right.
see somebody, it's like when they walk in the room, everybody gets quiet because they're the guy.
Yeah. Marcus, somebody was the first person to say he's the first one in the building and the last guy out. And now when we hear, hey, it's every quarterback is going to be listening. He's got a great arm.
We could really use an adult in this podcast right now, right?
we could. And I'm not helping at all. Any concerns for you on this signing? And we did talk about this before, unlike Deshaun Watson. And again, we had to spend such a long time on Watson because we just haven't really addressed it with you guys. Any concerns about quarterbacks not running as much as they get older? The data is there. Russell Wilson has always been such an effective rusher as a quarterback, but this will be year 11. This is when we start to see that real downturn. Doesn't mean they can't still be effective. They just don't do it nearly as much typically. Is this a guy that can win with the Broncos and take them to the Super Bowl without that mobility factor? I'm just talking about against the elite quarterbacks in the AFC. I think he can, but it was just such a big factor when they won in 2013.
Yeah, I mean, he's so much better of a passer now than he was back then. So that's why I think he can. The biggest thing for him is, can he still be mobile inside the pocket? The rushing yards probably aren't going to be there. Like, he's just not going to average 30 rushing yards a game like he did earlier in his career. But can he make the first guy miss inside the tackle box and deliver a ball down the field to Courtland Sutton? I think the answer is yes, and I think we're going to see it this year. I also think Elliot's going to help. The offensive line is better in Denver than it was in Seattle. I think the running game is going to be really good with Javonte Williams. I think Melvin Gordon's going to come back. I just don't think he's going to have to do a ton there.
Like, you even care if Melvin Gordon comes back.
Or whatever running back is there.
Yeah, I don't think you care. Before some knucklehead says, oh, you're saying that Russell Wilson can only run and he can't throw and all that kind of stuff. Listen, if you watched Russell Wilson with Seattle when they were dominating the league from 2012 to 2014, this is a guy that was so effective. I'm looking at his rushing numbers right here. Marcus, 5.2 yards a carry, 5.6 yards a carry. 2014, when they lost the Super Bowl to New England, 849 yards rushing, 6 touchdowns, and 7.2 yards a carry, which led the league. I mean, enough said. I think Russell Wilson's a really, really good deep ball thrower. When he's on, I like his intermediate. The only thing I don't like about Russell Wilson in the pocket is sometimes he tends to back up a little far and then hold on to the ball. Same problem if you're going to pick apart Aaron Rodgers' game, that has been historically Aaron Rodgers' issue too, is sometimes holding the ball too long. I think Russell Wilson's a great passer. I'm just curious, because the AFC is loaded right now, dude, at quarterback, and any advantage you have, you need. And I don't think Josh Allen is as good as thrower as Russell Wilson. No. But if you take Josh Allen's running ability away, is Buffalo a Super Bowl contender? Not take it away, but if he ran less,
minimize it. Yeah. I don't know. It's a good question. You're hoping that Josh Allen can continue to progress as a passer, but his rushing ability is what makes him one of the most dangerous players in the league right now.
All right, well, let's go back over these real quick before we bail out of here. Let's start with number 10 and 3, 2, 1, go.
Yeah, number 10 is Drew Lock to the Seattle Seahawks. I know they got him in a trade, but it seems like that's who's going to be the day one starter. I hate it. Number 9 is the Washington Commanders with Carson Wentz. Did not like the player last year, did not like the draft assets they had to give up, and I certainly don't like the contract. I just think that's an awful fit for Wentz. Number 8 is Tyrod Taylor to the Giants. Maybe he's their starter at some point this season. We'll see, but I think he's going to help Daniel Jones. I think he's going to help Brian Dable install that offense. Number 7 is Teddy Bridgewater to the Dolphins. Another guy that I think could help Tua Tagovailoa develop a little bit. I think he's a good fit in Mike McDaniel's offense. I think he's a good player. Jameis Winston, to the Saints at number 6. Third year there. Knows Pete Carmichael. I think he was pretty decent last year when he played. Number 5, it's Mitchell Trubisky to the Steelers. The price is good. I think a year off is going to help him. The Steelers don't have a lot going for them on offense, but I think his mobility will help him be successful there. Number 4, Marcus Mariota to Atlanta. A lot of the same things we just said about Trubisky makes sense for Mariota in Atlanta. Number 3 is Matt Ryan to the Colts. Gives him an adult in the room. Elliot gives him somebody who can use the play action game well. I think it's the best they could have done considering their limited resources. Number 2, Deshaun Watson to the Browns. Gives him the highest ceiling of any of the quarterbacks on this list. Then at number 1, Russell Wilson to the Broncos.
If I were going to push you here, one guy on this list that you think could greatly exceed expectations, or if he doesn't necessarily exceed expectations, the team does with his presence. I have one in mind, but curious what you think.
For me, it's Mitch Trubisky. The Steelers quarterback play over the last 3 years has been downright awful. And Ben Roethlisberger has not been mobile at all. Neither is Mason Rudolph. And we've seen, like, whenever the Steelers just get competent quarterback play, I'm talking like averaging 6.8 yards per attempt and not turning the ball over, they win because their defense is pretty good and they have a really good kicker in Chris Boswell. If Trubisky can just be average or even close to average, the Steelers are probably going to win 10 games this year.
I think this team needs to draft a wide receiver. They need to look at tight end in the draft, but mine is Jameis Winston.
Okay.
I think if Jameis Winston was the Saints quarterback last year, they were in the playoffs. They played almost the whole year without him. Jameis Winston was the top overall pick in the draft. Yeah, he threw a lot of interceptions his last year in Tampa Bay. He also threw a lot of touchdowns too. It's not like this guy can't play. If he can mitigate the turnovers, this team leans on the defensive stars they do have, Marcus, the veterans they do have, and have the semblance of a running game, which they didn't always have last year. Kamara was not always available last year, for example. But if this team can run the ball, lean on their defensive stars, and Jameis Winston plays somewhat of what we saw last year, but for the whole season, this team's in the tournament. And you look at their division, yeah, you've got Tampa, but who else? Atlanta and Carolina?
And they beat Tampa both times last year.
Yes. So, what did the Saints go? Did they go 10-7 last year without him, or 9-8? I know it was one of the
9-8 last year. Yep.
9-8. Okay. So that's the one for me, but I don't disagree with yours at Pittsburgh. I like both of those, but, hey, I think it's good stuff. That's our 10 quarterbacks. And by the way, again, we're going to have Chad Ryder on Thursday to talk about what some of these teams can do to help out those quarterbacks. So make sure to join us for that. But with that, Marcus, I give you the final word.
Yeah, we've had a ton of quarterback movement over the last week and a half, but it's actually opened up for potentially 2 quarterbacks to be drafted inside of the top 10. And a not very good quarterback class. We have the Lions sitting at number 2 that could draft a quarterback. We've got the Giants with 2 picks inside of the top 10. We've got the Panthers at number 6. We've got the Falcons. We've got the Seahawks. And I think there's going to be some fighting for these quarterback prospects. We still have Washington at 11 that's been doing a lot of work on Kenny Pickett from Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh at 20. They obviously need a quarterback. I think you're going to see a wild draft class in terms of these guys trying to move up for the 1 or 2 potential franchise quarterbacks.
Okay. Well, that remains to be seen. We've got several weeks before we'll get there, but you're going to hear a lot of talk and banter about that. I don't know why I said talk and banter. Literally, it's being redundant. Yes. I heard irregardless the other day. I hadn't heard that word in a while.
How about pitch and held? We use that one on Locked On Cowboys podcast all the time. Pitch and held.
Okay. I didn't do a health hack today, but I will tell you that irrespective is better than irregardless. There you go. There's your note. So he is at Marcus_Mosher. He's the host of Locked On Cowboys. He also covers the Raiders for USA Today. I am at Harrison NFL on Twitter. Again, we'll have Chad Ryder on Thursday, and we're going to make Marcus work and actually have a Friday podcast this week. So there you go. Take care, everybody.
Try to beat an adult Friday.